What's going on, guys? My name is Matt, and in my most recent video I showed you guys what you could put together right now for the price of an Xbox One X. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, right now during early 2018, PC hardware prices are all over the place. SSDs are expensive, RAM's expensive, and GPUs are many times going for double the price of their MSRP. All of this has made it pretty difficult to put together a budget gaming PC for around the same price as a console. The system that I showed off last week has a Ryzen 3 1200, 8GB of RAM, an MSI B350 board, an EVGA 450W power supply, a 1TB Western Digital Blue hard drive, a GTX 1050, and all of that is wrapped up in the Cooler Master Masterbox Lite 3.1. Though I did just go over all of the specs of that PC, if you want to learn more about it, hear the rationale of why I picked each of the parts, and see the 1080p benchmarks, you can go ahead and click the link in the description down below or card above for the original video on that PC. Now, one of the big selling points of going with an Xbox One X over a budget gaming PC like this one is the fact that it can run many games at full 4K resolution. With this being said, there are still a fair number of games on the Xbox that run at 1080p or somewhere in between 1080p and 4K with resolution scaling and other tricks to make the visuals look better. All this got me thinking as to whether or not this budget gaming PC I put together would be able to play any games in 4K, and that's exactly what we're gonna figure out in today's video. The whole point of this build wasn't to compete with the Xbox, it was just to show you guys what you could get for the same price. So keep in mind, this is just a fun video testing to see whether or not this budget system can run any games at 4K. So now let's go ahead and take a minute and talk about the GPU in this build. When I say 4K PC gaming, graphics cards that come to mind are probably the 1080 Ti, 1080, 1070 Ti, and maybe even the 1070, but one thing you probably don't think of is the GTX 1050. When you're gaming at such a high resolution, your graphics card becomes very, very important. Now, don't get me wrong, you need a well-balanced system to be able to play at 4K, but as you up the resolution, you take some of the load off of the CPU and put extra load onto the GPU. Now, the GTX 1050 being a lower end card and only having 2GB of video memory means it's probably not going to do the best in 4K gaming, but that doesn't mean we won't still try. The version of the GTX 1050 that I have is the MSI low profile variant, which at the time of putting this PC together was the cheapest version available at $130 on Amazon. Now, a lot of people said I should have cut corners in other parts of the build to try and fit in a GTX 1050 Ti, but at the time of filming, the cheapest GTX 1050 Ti is well above $200, meaning no amount of price cutting would have allowed me to fit that into the build. Now let's go ahead and talk about testing. I actually don't own a 4K monitor, but that's alright because Nvidia has this feature called Dynamic Super Resolution, which essentially allows you to run your game at a higher resolution than what your monitor supports. Now, obviously this isn't the most practical thing to do, but there are actually some benefits to running your games at a higher resolution than what your monitor supports. Because the game's being rendered at such a high detail level, it's going to look much better even if you're running a game at 4K on something like a 1080p display. This is the same reason that even if you don't have a 4K display, running YouTube videos at 4K on something like a 1080p monitor will look much better because the video is being rendered at a much higher bitrate. To do this, all I have to do is go into the Nvidia control panel and enable the resolution that I want for each game, and boom, we are ready to start testing these games. So the first game I'm gonna test is Rocket League. In the settings, I've got it to 4K resolution at about medium settings. I'll see how the FPS is. Maybe I'll bump it up or bump it down depending, but hopefully we can get at least the 60 FPS average in Rocket League at 4K at medium settings. So now I'm just gonna jump into a game. So we've loaded up a 1v1 and I'm gonna see. So looks like we're at about 50-ish FPS average right now. Perfectly playable. I'm just not very good at this game. Oh man, I'm so bad. But the game does look very nice in 4K. So So yeah, Rocket League is totally playable at 4K medium settings with a low 50 FPS average, but it's completely fine to play. Next up is Overwatch at medium settings at full 4K resolution. So what I'm going to do is just jump into the practice range and see what kind of FPS I get. So I'm in the practice range with D.Va now, and I'm honestly seeing pretty good FPS. Right now it looks like I'm averaging around low 50s. Yeah, I'm averaging right around 55 FPS right now. I've loaded into a game on Route 66 and we're gonna see how it does at 4K medium settings. FPS is in the mid 40s right now. Still perfectly playable. So right there, I seem to have averaged in the mid to low 40s, which is perfectly playable. I'm gonna play a little bit more and see how it goes. So yeah guys, Overwatch at 4K medium settings is perfectly playable with around 40 FPS average, which is fine for me, but obviously you could bump the settings down more and get a higher FPS, so overall, I'm impressed. Now it is time for GTA 5. I'm in the settings, it's showing 4K resolution, and I've set everything else to the lowest possible settings. I'm not sure how this is gonna go, but let's find out. I'm just gonna be doing the first driving mission with Franklin and seeing exactly how it goes. First glance, running, I'm at above 60 FPS, which is pretty surprising. Driving, I'm at around 75 FPS, which is really pretty surprising. Still above 60, just dropped below 60. So what I think I'm gonna do is actually bump up some of the settings and restart and see what kind of performance we get. This is now at 4K with most things set to high. Already definitely a lot lower performance. Right off the bat it's staying at around the upper 30s. So we'll see how it goes when driving. So driving around looks about a 37-ish FPS average, mid 30s average. Definitely playable, not really enjoyable, but the game does look very, very nice at these settings. So yeah, GTA 5 at 4K with most things set to high is completely playable. So yeah guys, I think we've reached the end of the video. I was pretty surprised at how this PC performed in 4K gaming, and if you guys were too, let me know what you thought in the comment section down below. So yeah, I think this wraps this video up. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up, as well as consider subscribing for more PC and tech related content in the future. And as always, this is Matt from Tech by Matt, signing out.